So this Roblox game killed someone. Allegedly. I'm talking about the game Doom by Fate on Roblox. And by now, you've probably heard of the situation. It's all over Twitter. There's so many TikToks and videos, especially about this here. Honestly, I can't remember the last time I've seen a situation on Roblox blow up to this level in scale. I've literally had journalists reach out to me questioning what's going on. And so in this video, we're going to be diving into the Doom by Fate situation. I also just want to say right here, right now, this is not the normal KreekCraft video. This is not jokes. This is not memes. This is 100% real. Like, I am 100% serious in everything I say and do in this video here. And also, this probably doesn't need to be said, but this video does deal with some pretty serious topics. So let's get into it. You see, this is Doom by Fate. It's an asymmetrical horror game, kind of like Forsaken, kind of like by Night. You get the idea. There's a monster, there's survivors. And over the weekend, they released a new update to the game that added in the character 1X. Obviously, I'm sure you guys know who 1X is. And epilepsy warning here. I just want to put that out there. But whenever you play as 1X, look, there's some very flashy images all over the screen. That's all I'm going to show right there, because even as someone without epilepsy, that is pretty insane. And well, the story is a player named Kit, who had photosensitive epilepsy, reportedly played the new update and suffered a severe seizure from the flashing lights on the 1X character. Kit was then hospitalized and then unfortunately died during emergency surgery less than 2 hours later. And then a few videos here started popping up, like from Sonic Deuce 995. Shout out to them. They made a video covering the situation, as well as an entire Google Doc, which we'll get to here in a moment. Basically, the story started spreading around the internet that, hey, this person named Kit passed away because of this game, because of an epileptic seizure caused by this Roblox game. And, well, the response coming out of the game's Discord was very, very bad. Like this user here named In. I don't know what their name is now. They keep changing their name, but they posted this: "Don't worry, son, she's with tongue now." Obviously, along with the text in the bottom. I'm not going to censor anything in this video. Along with the alleged co-owner of the game saying stuff like this in the Discord general chat, and various other messages like these, which I'm just going to put on the screen. And if you want to read them, you can pause to read them. They're, not great considering the circumstance, and that's an understatement. And so over here, we have a player that allegedly died because of this Roblox game. And over here, we have a development team that is allegedly making fun of the situation. What's going on? What's the truth? Well, you see, the story actually has two parts to it. Number one, we have the Kit situation and the alleged death, and then we have the developer situation and the Discord comments. First, let's talk about Kit. So the person making the claims that their friend died was this person here named DracoBloxer, aka Mel. That's what they go by. For the rest of the video, I'll just call them Mel. They sent these Discord messages saying, "Hey, tell the others I don't have much time. My friend, redacted, got a seizure from playing Doom by Fate thanks to 1X. I'm running here right now. I need to go." And then it says 2 hours later, Kit passes away in emergency surgery. Mel says, "I have to go soon, but get this to anyone with a large following. Kit died. She died in surgery. All because of this, she died in the emergency surgery." And that's really all we had to go off of right here. These two screenshots. And look, and I think this is a very important thing for everyone to take note of and remember, especially anyone young watching this video. If you're going to make an extraordinary claim, you're going to need to have extraordinary evidence. And that goes for anything. So if someone is making the claim that this Roblox game inadvertently killed their friend, that's a very big claim to make. And if you're going to make a claim that big, then you're going to need to have some very big evidence to back that up. So I reached out to DracoBloxer and the development team. Again, we'll get to those guys. Just stay tuned. But I reached out to DracoBloxer, aka Mel, and we had a 37-minute Discord call going over this entire story and what happened. Now, I'm not going to play the entire Discord call because it's 36 minutes long, almost 37. But if you want to watch the full unedited thing, it's up on my Twitter in its entirety. I'll have a link in the description if at any point you want to watch the entire unedited version. But basically, here's the story. So I'm going to tell you what Mel, aka DracoBloxer, told me in the 37-minute Discord call. I'll also have these Discord messages that kind of just, back this up and help everything flow here in the background that you can read as well. So basically, DracoBloxer, aka Mel, is claiming that her friend Kit, who I should also say real quick is 20 years old and lives alone. DracoBloxer here claims that her entire family is no longer living. Her entire family passed away. You can see in these messages here, Mel says she was far older than me. She lived alone and she was about the only one left of her family. In the call, Mel basically says that Kit's entire family, like immediate family, was gone, like passed away. Mom, dad, brothers, sisters, grandmas, grandpas, like everyone's gone. I should also note, if I haven't said this, Mel is 13, Kit was 20. Anyway, Kit has a seizure. The person that lives next door to Kit, a 19-year-old dude, somehow realizes that Kit is having a seizure next door and somehow gets into her house. I should also note that the 19-year-old dude who lives next door lives with his parents. His parents were home at the time they were asleep. I'm not sure why he didn't wake them up, but he did not. So this 19-year-old dude goes next door, somehow gets into the house, finds Kit unconscious, having a seizure, and for some reason, I'm not really sure why, that 19-year-old dude decided to call Mel, the 13-year-old, instead of 911 and obviously emergency medical services. So the 19-year-old dude calls Mel, the 13-year-old, tells Mel the situation. Mel then leaves her house. Apparently, she lives with her dad, and her dad did not care. Her words, not mine. Again, it's all in the call if you want to watch it. Mel then runs 15 blocks to her friend Kit's house, during which the 19-year-old dude calls 911. They send the ambulance. Mel claims that when she got to the house and arrived, which was before the ambulance got there, that Kit was barely breathing and that Mel performed CPR, which I want to say right now, just in general, you don't perform CPR on someone that is still breathing, especially someone that is actively having a seizure. CPR is meant for when someone is not breathing and or does not have a pulse. So I'm not really sure why they perform CPR on her here. Anyway, emergency medical services, the ambulance takes her to the hospital. Mel says that the 19-year-old neighbor then goes back home, wakes his parents up, tells them the situation. And Mel decides to walk an hour to the hospital. So she walks an hour to the hospital. This is her words, not mine. She gets to the hospital, tells the hospital that she's here to see her friend Kit. Hospital lets her into the room. You can see some of these messages here. She's waking up. I gotta go. She's on the verge of death. I'm not joking. I have a second while she's being driven to update people on her. I don't have time to type, but she's critical. Well, anyway, Mel then gets into the room with Kit, where Mel then finds that her heartbeat is really, really slow. And for some reason, instead of calling a doctor, decides to go on Discord and tell everyone to get a YouTuber on the story instead of calling a doctor when her friend is actively dying in front of her. But anyway, Mel claims that the doctors then come in, take her friend into surgery, and then 10 minutes later, during that surgery, her friend dies in the middle of it. And how does Mel know that Kit passed away? Well, Mel claims that she snuck into the operating ward of the hospital and watched the doctors do surgery through the operating room window and door, the gap in the door. Again, this is her words, not mine. You can watch the full call. It's out there. And then at some point, while the doctors were doing surgery on her, they dropped their tools, looked down, looked sad, and Mel knew at that moment that her friend was dead. And then she proceeded to sneak back out of the hospital, walk an hour back home, and here we are. Now, in the Discord call that I had with Mel, I tried to be as straight as possible, right? Not taking any sides. I'm not really here to dispute any details or anything like that. I was just looking for clarification on stuff. But now that I'm here and I'm making this video, I do want to give my opinion on this. There's a lot of things in this story that just don't make sense. This 20-year-old's family is entirely dead. She has no immediate next of kin. The 19-year-old dude from next door somehow realizes that she's having a seizure next door, Kit that is, rushes over to save her and see what's going on and doesn't wake his parents up to let them know. Mel here is 13 years old, tells her dad that, hey, my friend's having a seizure. And the dad says, okay, cool. Yeah, just run off into the night and go deal with it. He doesn't call the police. He doesn't call emergency services. Mel is a 13-year-old that ran 15 blocks at midnight to go save her friend. And then when EMS services get there, the 19-year-old neighbor goes and tells his parents the whole situation, and they don't go to the hospital to see their next door neighbor that is dying. They just stay there. And Mel here decides to walk 1 hour, a 13-year-old at midnight on foot, walks 1 hour to the hospital. She doesn't get a ride with the neighbors or anything like that. Now, here's the biggest thing. And I didn't talk about this in the call because, again, I was trying to be pretty neutral in the call. After Mel says that she walks an hour to the hospital, she tells them that she's here to see her friend Kit, and they let her in. Hospitals do not let people in to a patient's room if they're in critical condition. If they are literally on the verge of death in critical condition, no one is allowed to go back in that room, especially not a random 13-year-old who claims that they were at the hospital by themselves without any parent or guardian or adult at all. That's just not how hospitals work. Also, Mel claims that she snuck into the operating ward of the hospital. Also, not possible. A 13-year-old is not sneaking into the operating ward of a hospital. That's not how it works. You have to be let in. There's procedures that it doesn't work like that. Mel also says in the call I had with them that she watched the surgery through the operating room window and also through the gap in the door of the operating room. Operating rooms typically don't have windows for various reasons. You can probably imagine. And they definitely don't have large gaps in between the doors into the surgery room because that's unsanitary. That's unsafe. Operating rooms, surgery rooms are airtight. They are locked up because they don't want outside contaminants getting in while someone is cut open on the inside. So if this person is claiming that they just watched from the gap in the door, that's not how this works. They also claim right here that she died due to suffocation in surgery. Well, how do you know that? You didn't talk to any doctor. You didn't talk to anybody. You just snuck in and watched them through a window, allegedly. And then you just snuck out of the hospital, which, by the way, you can't sneak out of the operating ward of a hospital. Again, you have to be literally like beeped in, beeped out. There's key cards, like there's code, like you have to call it. You don't just sneak in and out. You just sneak out through a window. That's not how this works. And so my personal opinion on the matter is that this story is completely made up, completely fabricated. Why? I don't know. Why does anybody lie on the internet? Now, Draco, aka Mel, did reach out and say that they're getting death threats, and they wanted me to let everyone know to ask to stop sending them death threats. I just want to point out real quick the severity. Look, no one should be getting death threats, but I want to point out the severity of this. Mel, if you're watching this video, you literally accused an entire dev team of inadvertently murdering your friend. I'm not a lawyer, but I can tell you that this is going to be the easiest defamation lawsuit of all time. These developers are about to be rich as hell. You just can't lie about that kind of stuff. That's insane. Shoot, I'm not a lawyer. That might be criminal. I don't know. You might be looking at like an actual crime being committed here. By the way, I should point out, sneaking into the operating ward of a hospital is literally classified as criminal trespassing. You're not allowed back there without permission. So like you just admitted to criminally trespassing in a hospital's operating ward. But like I said, that was just one side of the story. We got to talk about this. We got to talk about the developers. So I'm just going to show the Discord messages here. I just want to be completely transparent. So this is Lazy. Here, I'll zoom in real quick so it's a little bit easier to see. So this is Lazy. They are the co-owner of Doom by Fate. I say, hi, nice to meet you. He says, hey, where should we start? I wanted to basically get his side of the story here. I had sent a voice note with all the questions that I wanted to ask, and I told him what the questions were and where to find them. So first, he says that NYZ, the person that sent this message right here, is not part of the staff team. They are not on the dev team, nor are they on the mod team. They were a volunteered Trello manager to do information sites for our game. I should point out here that the developers of this game are they're from Asia, they're from Thailand, so their English isn't perfect here. But the guy who sent this message right here was not on the dev team or anything like that. They were simply making, I guess, wikis for the game. They said he was nice and joyful before everything happened. We had zero awareness about his behavior. We immediately applied punishment to him as soon as he showed the disrespectful behavior. I should point out, too, that the developers said that they were all asleep whenever this was going on because, again, they're from Asia, they're from Thailand, and so they woke up and all this was happening and they were being accused of, murdering this person. And so they claimed that they had no idea of any of this until, like, they woke up because, obviously, time zones. My second question was, did you ignore the feedback about adding an epilepsy mode to the game? Because, obviously, if you have a character or something in the game that has flashy lights or anything that could trigger epilepsy, then you need to have some sort of toggle or warning in the game. They said, no, we did not neglect the suggestions and feedback. We were actively working on the epilepsy toggle. We launched a hotfix regarding this issue. Everything is fixed now. Basically, I ended up talking a little bit further here, but the gist of the situation is they added the 1X update on on Sunday. That update came with an epilepsy toggle. That toggle, unfortunately, did not work. It was bugged. Now, since the developers were asleep whenever they figured out that it was bugged and not working, they had to get a separate developer to come in and fix the bug, which they say they had fixed in roughly about a day or so, a little bit under a day, half a day to a day. By Monday, they claim it was fixed and that the epilepsy toggle in the game was working. I then asked how old they were. They said 19 years old, first year university student. And yeah, here it is. I said, so the update was out, but the epilepsy mode was bugged, and then you guys fixed it within a day or so. In a day or so, they said, yes, sir, exactly. I then asked who all these people were in this screenshot here. As you can see, the ones that I was showing, these right here, for example, the ones I was showing before. And they say all the presented individuals within the screenshot besides Josh aren't staff and in any way do not represent the game or the development team themselves. They were literally just people with artist and conceptor roles. I'm guessing for some reason if you had an artist tag on your Discord profile for this game, you could still chat whenever the server was like muted or paused or whatever. Not really sure why, but that seems to be the case here. I said, quick recap, most of the dev team was sleeping during this because they were in Asia. The people making the comments on Discord aren't even on the dev team, and the epilepsy mode was included with the update but bugged out and was fixed within a day and was in the process of being fixed before all this even happened. Is that accurate? They said exactly. I then asked who this guy is here, the DAAS guy, from this screenshot right here. A lot of people on Twitter are claiming that this guy is the co-owner of the game. He's making these comments. Lazy said he's the main manager, but he didn't have any influence with this situation. He's a target of the community, but he didn't deserve this. I said, did he quit a month ago? Because he claims he quit a month ago. He said, technically, yes. He was helping us set up the server and hiring staff. Basically, this guy here, from what they claim, was a guy that they hired to help set up the Discord and hire staff members. He managed the Discord, and that was it. He didn't have any role in development or anything like that, and he's definitely not a co-owner or anything like that, and he left a month ago. He hasn't even been working on the game. He was not working on this game whenever the situation went down. They say he works for mini games. That's why we don't bother him much. We just let him do his work. I feel terrible for him. He doesn't have anything to do with this, but he's the one being fully blamed. And of course, it doesn't need to be said, but all of these people have been let go from the Discord. Now, here's my thoughts on the developers and this whole situation. First off, if you're going to have flashing lights in a game, you need to have some sort of epilepsy warning, just period, that needs to be in there. Especially if the epilepsy toggle is not currently working, that needs to be something that is very clearly put out there and known so that people playing the game are aware of it. I think it is really unfortunate that there's a whole lot of people all over the internet that think that this is the developer of the game. This is not the developer of the game. They do not work on the game. And I also think clearly they need new staff for the Discord because this situation was just completely mishandled. Why in the world was the staff for the Discord even letting comments like this go through? And anyone making comments like this obviously should not work on the game. And as far as I know, they no longer do. They're not on the staff team. They're not on the mod team or anything like that. And I think this brings up a really big point. And this is something I've talked about for a long time. The development team for this game is like a bunch of kids, 18, 19, obviously technically legally they're not kids, but for all intents and purposes, they're kids. They have absolutely zero business experience, zero life experience, absolutely zero qualifications to be running a major successful game on Roblox with a community and doing QA testing, all of this stuff. It's just a bunch of 19-year-old dudes. And so you see situations like this all the time on Roblox, whether it's legal situations, whether it's situations like this just being completely mishandled, whether it's PR nightmares because developers just don't know how to communicate with people. You see this all the time on Roblox because everyone on Roblox is just a kid. Like, it has never been more apparent to me than right now that everyone in this community is basically a kid. It's full of kids. It's a platform for kids. And like, yeah, they're 18, 19, but they're basically kids. They don't have any training for this. Like, if you go and work for like an actual game studio, you have training, you have protocols, you have like rules you have to follow, and there's like chains of command and stuff. But with Roblox games, it's just a group of kids making stuff, and there's no adult in the room. There's no one that goes, hey, this is bad, you shouldn't do this, or hey, don't do that, or do. And situations like this happen all the time. I think the best outcome out of all of this is that developers on Roblox recognize that epilepsy is a really big problem. And if you're going to have any sort of flashing lights or anything that could trigger epilepsy in your game, you need to have that warning and you need to have clear toggles for that. But other than that, there's really not much else I can say about this situation. Thanks for watching.